everybody, welcome to another episode of eXpose Experience. Today episode is brought to you by Always a Handful, cakes and coffee, the drinks, and of course eXpose. And today we are happy to have Hadijah with us.
Yes. Hello.
Welcome, how are you?
Hadijah.
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
Good.
Very good.
Today we will be talking about your jet experience in Japan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can you
Your
share with
program?
us what is jet program?
Okay, so for anyone who hasn't heard of JET, it stands for the Japan Exchange and Teaching Program, and it is essentially an international exchange program where participants from many different countries, I think currently it's over 50 different countries, participants from these countries go to Japan and they live and work in rural areas or urban areas or towns, cities, and there are different roles that you can essentially do. So I was in Japan in a rural village in Kumamoto Prefecture, and my role was an assistant language teacher, or what they refer to as an ALT. So I think majority of the people who go on JET are ALTs, and the job essentially is to go and teach English, because in Japan, English is the foreign language that they learn in public school. So whereas for me, it was to teach English, but for there are other people who come on and they teach Russian, they teach Chinese, they teach Korean,
So
like
it's a whole different language for them then.
yeah, basically it's they learn it as their foreign language in school. Whereas like in Singapore, we have our mother tongue languages. They learn this completely as a foreign language, so it's not something that they are introduced to from young. Many people don't speak about it or don't speak English at home, that kind of thing. Yeah, so Japan has this system where in their public school they need assistant language teachers. So there is always a Japanese teacher in the class, but we assist the Japanese teacher in teaching English. Yeah.
So there'll be like a translation in between, or like
In terms of how the lesson is done,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So usually in these kinds of settings, it's the Japanese teacher will speak Japanese and explain the concept or the language or the grammar structure depending on the level that you're at. And me, as like from my experience as the assistant language teacher, I would be there to teach pronunciation, in case they don't know how to say certain things, help them with translating that and everything. So but basically being an ALT is one of the 3 different roles that you can actually do if you go on the JET program. It's just that most of the people who are on JET are ALTs.
So how did you get started at the first place? Because you need to, from what I understand, is that you need to apply for submit the application, and
Yeah.
then run through a few rounds of interview probably
Yeah.
before you say, oh, congratulations, we're going to ship you to Japan.
So the whole process actually takes like 10 months before you actually
10 months,
leave.
that's long.
Yeah, before you actually leave. So for example, okay, normally the process would start somewhere in September. So around this time is the application period. So between September and November is when you are submitting paperwork. And because it's Japan and because they have a reputation for loving paperwork, it's usually like in duplicate or triplicate, you know, you're photocopying a lot, you're getting a lot of original copies. So it takes a while to get everything submitted. Interview-wise, in Singapore, they do interviews in January. So like the majority of JET participants are from the US. And of course, their interview periods are spread out over 2 months, so January, February. But in Singapore, because I guess the pool is much smaller in terms of the number of people that they not only get applications from, but also the number of people that they accept and the people that they will interview. So generally in Singapore, the interviews are done over like a 3-week period in January. And then basically you just sit in silence and you don't hear anything until I think I heard back in like mid-April that I was shortlisted. And shortlisted doesn't mean you're guaranteed a position. It means that the embassy is going to take your name and pass it on to the people
like
in Japan.
50-50%
Yeah,
then.
so like if they have, and usually it's the case that there are people who are leaving, and then like towns and cities and stuff, they need a replacement, so your name will be put in. And then yeah, I think I only found out my placement in May, like late May. So essentially I had a month and a little bit before I left for Japan where I knew exactly where I was going and what to prepare for and things like that.
So what was your family reaction when you told them, hey, I'm going to Japan to
I'm
work?
going to Japan. I think my elder sister was the person who actually introduced me to the JET program, because she knew somebody after university who went. And she was the one who like said, hey, why don't you give this a try? So she was very supportive. My younger sister as well, very supportive. I think my parents were a bit like, let's just wait and see where you are placed. Like, are you really going to be able to make it? Because the placement is sort of like a lottery. Unless you have, unless you have specific reason to be in a specific place, like let's say your town or city is like a sister city with a place in Japan, there really is, telling exactly where you could end up. And so when I said like, oh, I got my placement email, I'm placed in a village, they were kind of like, no, like you're not leaving, like you're staying here. Like, that's basically their reaction. And I was like, no, I'm leaving. Like, that's.
So you stay put there for 2 years straight. You didn't went back to Singapore.
No, I went back quite often actually. So,
because they have their summer holidays,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, they have during their vacation time. I went back, and one of the times I went back was actually because I helped the board of education that I was working for organize a school trip for junior high school students to come to Singapore, and like we brought them to a secondary school here to see what, like, because junior high school there is like secondary school here, so we brought them to a secondary school to see what school is like here and how the students like all wear uniforms as well, but how the classes are conducted, how big the classes are and everything.
How messy the canteen is.
No, they liked the canteen. They found it very, very interesting.
Because relax.
Yeah, because
you don't have to wait for your classmate to get ready and eat together, you know. It's just like eat and then put it there and go off. Yes.
Yeah, so like for them, for growing up in the Japanese school system, they're very used to like lunchtime means everyone sit down and eat lunch together, and there's no reason for you to get up and walk around during lunchtime. But like for us, recess is like, no, just everywhere. Like I want to eat in this corner, I don't want to eat at a table.
5 minutes, 15 minutes of
Play
football.
the rest. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, theirs is like, no, now is eating time, and then afterwards you can play if you want to play, that kind of thing. So yeah. So I did come back a few times. I think maybe every couple of months. Yeah, the first year I tried to stay in Japan for Hari Raya, but that was awful. I was like, no, I don't want to do that again. So the next year I made sure to come back. Even though I knew I was already returning to Singapore permanently, I was like, nope, I have leave to use. I'm coming back for Hari Raya. Like, yeah. It's one thing to be fasting on your own for a full month, just alone in general, but in a community where it's like every day you have to explain to people, no, not even water, like and they're like, but sunset is at 8 p.m. Yeah, I know. Like the more you talk to me, the thirstier I get. So please stop asking me to explain.
Curious, you know, like
yeah, definitely. And I think there are most people that I met were very supportive of it, so just that isolation aspect of, because I mean in Singapore at least, Ramadan and Hari Raya is very community
based activities. Were there any point of time before you actually leave for Japan regret that maybe I shouldn't have applied for this program? Maybe
before I left, you mean? That?
Because you know that which area are you going, right? Kumamoto, Yamae
village,
Yamae village, right?
Yeah.
So you're like thinking, hey, it's going to be very different from me. I'll probably see more animals around compared to more humans, because it's farming area, which Kumamoto is well known for. Were there any point of time like maybe I should not?
No, I would say very confidently before I left, those thoughts did not occur to me at all. And I think sometimes I can be very short-sighted when I make decisions, and I just think like, no, let's go for it, like let's just go all in, right? Like just go. And then when I'm there, I'm like, oh, I should have probably thought about this, like maybe that wasn't the best decision. But in terms of like adjusting to it, and the things that I didn't really think about were mainly the fact that I'm so used to public transport. I have a license and everything. It's just that I don't drive. We don't own a car. Like I prefer to take the train. I find it so easy in Singapore. You just walk out and you can reach a mall within 10 minutes. Like, convenience store as well. But this village was really like no convenience store. You had to drive out. No public bus, no public train. Like, that was the one thing that I didn't really factor in. So that was the immediate thing that I was like, I have to drive everywhere.
And in people's mind, when you say, hey, I worked in Japan for 2 years, hey, which part of Tokyo are you?
Absolutely.
Then when you tell them, I'm at Kumamoto, where is it?
Where's that? Yeah.
Down south, Kyushu,
Exactly.
you know. Oh, you are in the city?
Take out
No.
the map. Take out the map.
Yamae village.
Exactly. They're like, oh, so Kumamoto city? No, further south. Oh, how far away is it from the city? Like half an hour? Like an hour and a half by car if I choose to go by the highway. If I went by back roads, 3 hours easy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we have a photo that you share with us. Your first
Yes,
meal in Japan.
yes.
Was
So-
this homemade?
So, because everyone eats lunch together and everyone eats the same thing at schools, it was going to be very difficult for them to even cater to like non-meat or seafood only kind of meals for me. So, it was just accepted, like, just pack your own bento every day. And so that photo was actually my first bento that I packed on my first day of school that I started teaching. And I was so excited that I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be this person. I'm gonna take photos of my bentos. Like, I'm gonna
Every
show
single day,
people.
you know?
Yeah, like I'm gonna show you how my bento gets better progressively.
How did you have that? But how did you have the bawang goreng, which is the
Oh,
fried shallot?
okay, that one's my mother. Like,
Oh,
Bring it from
bag.
Singapore.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
okay, you're allowed 2 bags, 2 check-in luggages, right? I brought like 3, and half of one was just food. Like, it was like sambal.
Yeah, because I look at the
bawang
photos,
goreng.
like, okay, the vegetables, I understand, it's
Yeah,
easy to
yeah.
get. The egg, the fish is also easy.
Yeah.
Rice, everything, and then bawang goreng
bawang
was the
goreng,
one
yeah.
that caught my eyes.
Nearly
Yes,
Singapore.
yeah. Yeah, that one's so expensive there. Like, for like maybe 100 grams, you pay like $5 or something.
But if
at
you
an
can make
international store.
yourself,
I don't know how to do that. So basically, I'm horrible at cooking. So that whole like picture was just me being like, look, I can do this. I'm adulting and whatever. And then I can tell you that like the bentos progressively got worse. Like,
because you got lazier.
yeah, they
It's
got
like, okay, I saw the rice.
lazier, and I was like, oh, I have to pack a bento for tomorrow. Like, is there a way that I can just pack 5 meals at one go?
Yeah,
Like,
mass cooking.
exactly. And then like it got to the point where sometimes I was like, I'm so lazy. I'm just gonna drive to the convenience store, and cause you can buy like vegetables
Ready-made
separate,
meals,
fish
right?
separate, rice separate. Even rice I didn't want to cook at some point, you know. Then I was just like, nope, just take out, repack,
The
done.
power of combini.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, combini, seriously, lifesaver. My teacher used to joke that my kitchen was the combini, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly right. Like, the kids don't know that it's combini food, so it's fine. Like,
As long they don't know.
yeah, correct. Yeah.
So let's talk about your first day at school. First day of work.
Uh-huh.
Not talking about orientation,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
first day where you go to school and then you go into the classroom. What was the reaction of the student? 'Cause
Japanese
they don't
kids-
interact much
Yeah.
with foreigners, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, prior to me coming to the village, the majority of foreigners that the children interacted with were usually from the US. So the previous ALT was a Vietnamese American lady. So, but she had like blonde hair, so they were like, oh, she's still a foreigner, even though she kind of looks like she could pass for like Japanese, right? And when I came, they were like, I've never seen a person who looks like this before. I've never met a Muslim before. Like, where are you from? like that kind of thing. So, but the thing about Japanese kids is they're all so polite that they don't express it. At the older they are, they don't express it. The younger they are, they're like, where are you from? Like, what are you doing here? How old are you? Like, do you live alone? Where's your house? That kind of, like, they just generally like young kid type questions. But yeah, the older they are, they're just kind of like, okay, I'll wait for you to do your self introduction, then maybe I'll ask you questions. That kind of
So
thing.
how many class do you have to assist in a way?
Oh, okay. So, because I was sent to the village, I was attached to the village board of education. And within the village, there's 2 elementary schools and 1 junior high school. So their elementary school is like our primary school, P1 to P6. Their junior high school is like the equivalent of Sec 1 to Sec 3. So I had to teach basically every single class in all the schools. But because it was a village, generally it was very small. Like in the elementary school, one of the elementary schools had like in total from P1 to P6 40 kids.
Okay, wow, that's
Yeah.
very little.
Yeah, so there was one girl, I remember she was the only one of her grade. And I think when I came, she was in like P2. So she was the only P2 student. So she would have English with another group, that kind of thing. Then the other school, they had one level, like one class per level, and each class was like 30, 35 kind of students.
So you are like one of the fortunate ALT that can go to a few schools.
And
right?
got to see everybody.
Correct, because
yeah.
normally what I watch and read so far are those, they are all based in one single school.
Yes. Yeah.
So you work with the board of education,
Mhm.
and then they say, okay, this is our under our portfolio kind
Yeah.
of schools. That's must be a very interesting experience.
Yeah, it was very interesting in the beginning because once I had gone to every single school, including the junior high school had like, I think a total of 120 students. So everyone saw me, everyone knows who I am, everyone had to listen to like my 40-minute self-introduction lesson. And the most interesting thing was that like going to the supermarket, so we all had to go to the next town over to go to the supermarket, would be like little kids coming up to me and be like, hello, Hadijah sensei, and then their parents like, who is this stranger you're talking to? Like, hello, I teach at the school. And that kind of thing.
And
So
then the parents become very polite.
yeah, suddenly they're like, oh, thank you, sensei, thank you. Yeah, but usually it'd be the kids who will be like, hello. Yeah. But that was in that sense, like, because I was in such a small environment, everybody knew me, which was both a good thing and a bad thing, like, because the community is very small. So sometimes I would come into school, like, and a teacher would say, oh, my friend saw you at this place. I'm like, who is your
It's like
friend?
a celebrity, right now. For a moment,
Yeah.
for maybe 2 weeks, oh, I'm a celebrity. And then after that, get off my
Just
life,
please stop talking to
please.
me.
I
Yeah.
just want to sit beside the river. Oh, my friend saw you at the
Yeah.
river fishing, It's like,
Exactly.
oh my God.
You went to this Daiso in this town. Yes, I did. How do you know? And then
Paparazzis everywhere.
yeah, and I mean they are very friendly, of course, but to some point I think it's a bit nosy. Like, we would never ask these questions to people. Like, oh, you're doing shopping? Oh, what did you buy? Like, oh, you're buying this? Like, please get out of my
Yeah.
basket. Like, thank you.
But I think the good thing about being in a smaller village is that the community spirits is, very close. You feel more at home compared to probably live in a major city.
Yeah, I think in terms of like, they always talk about Japanese people feeling very isolated or very alone when they live in bigger cities, especially like when you hear of like, or you read things or watch documentaries about how people are in Tokyo. It is the complete opposite in a village setting because everybody knows everybody. Like, it's to the point where like people know who gave birth in that month, and then like the village will announce it. And then because they were a village, they had a dedicated cable TV channel just for them. So I was always on that channel because people were always like videoing me at events and things like that. But in a sense that it was like, oh, this community event is happening, or like these people are having a meeting and they're part of this community or this committee, and this is what they decided. Like, everything is broadcast. So or like, this school had their sports day, let's all watch their sports day highlights reel, that kind of thing.
You're like every video.
Yeah, so it's my face there.
It's like try to find Wally.
No, you can
is
spot me
this
very
one
easily.
of the article that
This is from my first week that I
Okay.
arrived. Yeah, so this is actually in the neighboring town. They call it Hideyoshi City. And because the village is very close to this town, and like they deal a lot with the town and a lot of people work in that town, the journalists came over and just like interviewed me and was like, oh, what do you think of Japan? Like, what do you think of the Yamai village? What do you think of the district? And then I was in the newspaper, which was helpful because in my first few weeks, while I was trying to get my bearings, like, some people actually were like, oh, hey, I saw you in the newspaper. I was like, creepy, but yes, can you help me find this? Like, yeah. And
it's like a icebreaker.
yeah. Even like this, so in order sometimes to get to places, we would have to take a highway bus, and I would have to drive to the bus stop, and park my car at the parking lot that's near the bus station. And I didn't know how it worked. Like, I didn't know how to pay. I didn't know how to say, hey, I'm here. Like, because there's no gantry. Like, you just park at an empty spot, that kind of thing. And then I was like, this is my first time doing it. I don't know what to do. Like, do I leave money? Where do I put the money? That kind of thing. I walked into the office, and the first thing the guy was like, hey. And then he took out the newspaper. And he was like, this is you. And I'm like, yes, it is me. And then I was like, I parked my car here. And he says, it's okay. Which one? What color? What's the license plate?
Free parking.
No free parking lah. Okay lah, I paid. But at the same time, it was like, he's like, don't worry. I take care of your car. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Okay, bye. Yeah, so it was really helpful in that sense. But yeah, I mean, like, pros and cons, right? Like, having people
Do
know
you have
who
to
are.
take part any community? Was this part of the community event with the schools?
Yeah, so that's a school event. There's actually 2 pictures that's related. This one is when they were rice planting. So this is the smaller school, the one that has like about 40 students. So every year what they do is around rice planting season, before just near rainy season time, they'll start planting, and they try to get the students to do it the old way, because there are like machines, tractors that you can drive on that do automatic planting, right? But they want the students to do it the old way. So it's part of their history lesson, it's part of their language lesson, it's part of, like, it's an integrated kind of study unit.
And also to appreciate the food where it came from, right?
Yes,
That's what they
absolutely,
focus a lot on, not to waste the
So
food.
This particular one, this school, they plant their rice, what is it called? The glutinous rice that they use to make mochi. So first they plant the rice, then it's just there, like, on the plot. They see it as the months go by, then they'll harvest it. And then they'll keep the rice for when they have this school event called Mochitsuki, which is when the school comes together and they make mochi the old way. Like, they'll like it's clay pot, stoves, fire, and like cooking the rice. Then it's that like wooden mallet to make the mochi outside in the cold. Cause for New Year's it's a thing where people gather and like eat mochi together. So it's like a whole series of events together. Like, the students plant the rice, they harvest the rice, they make the mochi, and then they get to eat it together.
Like the whole cycle.
Yeah, and I thought it was a really nice thing for kids, because, like, even in Singapore we plant things in the school, but there's probably a gardener. Like,
No, I think it's for the sake of planting
for
that topic for that week, right?
Yes. So
And
that
after
when we
that,
so that when we do the plant unit, we go down to the garden and be like, see, you have this plant here, but actually it's like nobody takes care of it. Like, it's not the teachers who are responsible, it's not the students who are responsible, the gardeners come and water it, that kind of thing. But here it's like, nope, like, the people who are responsible are the students, the teachers, the community. So it's very nice. Yeah, even like harvesting, they use like the curved kind of like a sickle
See the whole
knife, that kind of thing. And like, kids as young as 5 were harvesting it.
it's good. It's a
together,
good
yeah.
experience, yeah. So on the topic of food, so because every region in Japan, they have specialty, right?
Yep.
Will you offer any food by the member or the community? It's like, hey, sensei, please try this specialty from our region.
In terms of like regional food, yeah, like, I was gonna say no, but then actually yes. They used to offer me, everyone always offered me food, like, as long as they knew that I couldn't eat certain things, so they would ask, like, are you okay to eat this, or somebody would check ingredients, that kind of thing. But most of the stuff was homemade. So for Yamai Village, it's not their main export, but it's their specialty export. It's chestnuts. So there's this like story that goes back to, I want to say, the Meiji era and the emperor, and how like the emperor said that these are the sweetest chestnuts that they've ever tasted, and it came from Yamai Village, and so they're very proud of their chestnuts. And whenever it was chestnut season, which is like in the fall, there would just be so many different things like
Related to chestnut.
yeah, related to
So
chestnut.
it's like steamed version, grilled version, or
Yeah, you know, they eat it mainly as like a thing with rice. So they cook it together with the rice, and that's actually very nice as well. Like, the rice is a bit like salty, but then the chestnut is sweet. So it's a dish in itself. They like to preserve the chestnut so that it's sweetened as well. They have that they just eat as like a full dessert kind of thing. And then they also have their own version of like Kumamoto's specialty. So the Kumamoto specialty dango is sweet potato with red bean paste together in like the rice mochi wrapping. And the village version is chestnuts with red bean paste in that. Yeah, and it's so nice, seriously. Like,
Are you thinking of it?
yeah, I was hoping, you know what? Because last year they actually sent some people from the village to what's that, Takashimaya basement, where they have the food
Oh
fair,
yes, okay.
right? So they were selling that, and they were saying that like not many people wanted to buy it, and I was like hoping this year they would come and I would buy all of it because I miss it. And then like no, they're not coming this year, obviously.
Yeah,
And,
maybe next year.
Hopefully next year. I miss it. It's really really nice if you ever get the chance. I don't know like the natural sweetness of the chestnut. Like I've never had chestnuts that are naturally that sweet, so it was very nice. But other things other than like chestnuts, which were their specialty, I've had people come to the office, like when I'm at the main office, the Board of Education, I've had people come and like give me eggs. Yeah, like just and it's like eggs in like, you know, like the kind where you go to the wet market and you get that like red plastic bag.
Yes.
Kind of thing. Yeah, it's just eggs in a plastic bag, and
And
they're
they'll come
like,
to you, Sensei.
Sensei, do you want eggs? And I'm like, I eat eggs, okay. Like, I'll
Fresh.
take them. Yeah, exactly. From my farm, here you go. And I was like, okay, thanks. I've had people come up to me and say, this, what was it, persimmon?
Oh,
So persimmon can be quite pricey, right, from Japan. And they're like, oh, my family has a whole bunch of persimmon trees. Do you want persimmon from our farm? I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, I don't normally like to eat persimmon, but when I tried it, I was like, oh, it's really nice. Okay. I've gotten strawberries. I've gotten yuzu. I'm pretty sure I've gotten other things as well. But it's like, here, do you want this? Oh, okay.
yeah.
I won't say no. Like,
Once they know the free food.
yeah, I mean, and if I can eat it, I'll take it. Like,
and direct from farm.
yeah, exactly. That's the thing as well. It's
And,
like,
and here we are paying so much money.
exactly. Like I see the farmer and he's like, do you want this? Yeah, yes, thank you. I'll take it. So that was the plus side about living in, and that's something that everyone who lives in a rural placement will tell you. Like, people are just so generous. They want to give you things. Like I had one person try to offer me a kimono.
Wow.
And I refused.
Expensive.
Yeah, because she is like, she was, I believe she still is, but because of her old age, she doesn't do it anymore. She's like a person who can create and tailor kimonos, which I think you have to have like a special accreditation to be able to do.
It take a long time to make one.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So she was like, please come over to my house. I'll fit you. I'll make your kimono for you. And I was just like, I cannot.
Wow.
This one I cannot accept.
This is too
Like,
much.
yeah, this one I cannot accept. So I just said nicely, like, yeah, sure. But like when they asked, like my colleagues asked me, do you want to go? No. Like I feel very weird about taking this from somebody, like, and it's something so special as well. Like I'd rather be able to pay for it, but then I don't know how they would treat it. Like whether they would say like, why are you trying to pay when I'm trying to offer it to you for free? And so I was just like, no thanks, I don't want a kimono. Like, yeah.
Okay. So I think I think there are some perks in this JET program, right? So it's like maybe sightseeing when you are not working,
Yeah.
or long holiday for the locals, and then you will be going
Yes.
around sightseeing.
Yeah.
So places like this, waterfall.
Yeah, so this waterfall is actually maybe like 20 minutes from my house. And like that photo I actually took like in my second week of
Wow.
being in the village. Like this is how excited I was to be there. I was like, no, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna explore. And I remember this waterfall. In my mind, when there's a place like this to visit, there is car park, there is like a place to
That
stop.
means everything is ready for you. Park your car, walk nicely, you know.
There are signs, you know, like it's supposed to be a thing. No, it's like this 2-lane winding road, and suddenly there's like a section where you can pull out, and then like off the side of the other side of the road is like this staircase that just goes down, and the sign where I parked my car was like, leave cars here at your own risk. I was like, oh, is this the right place?
And you were alone.
And I went alone, yeah. So like, I mean, in general, I like to travel by myself, but for some reason, again, I didn't think about it because I thought there would be a car park, there would be a place, like an actual
Did
place
anybody
to
came out with a
visit.
newspaper and say, hey, I know, I saw you on the newspaper.
I feel like maybe somebody was like, did you drive along this way? because apparently I passed one of my teacher's houses on the way.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was just like I was thinking if something happens to me here, there's no signal because it's right in the middle of the mountains. Like nobody will know except for the car
And
that
you
I've
might
just
see a
left.
puma, which is a
Right,
bear.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
bear. Yeah, black bear.
like they're always telling you that you can see a lot of wild boar. So even though Kumamoto is called Kumamoto, there are no bears in Kumamoto.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, there are no bears in Kumamoto.
And their mascot is a bear.
Yeah,
The black
so-
bear.
Yeah, the
Yes,
cute one.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, the cute bear. Come on. So it's kind of, I don't know why they decided on this, but even the kanji for Kuma doesn't actually mean bear.
Bear, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, I don't know why they call it Kumamoto. My friend used to have this joke that they should call it Umamoto. So Uma is horse, because Kumamoto has a lot of horses and they eat raw horse meat as well. So they used to joke like it should be called Umamoto instead. But I mean, I'm happy they went with the bear because it was cute. So in that area, anyways, it was a lot of wild boar. And again, like one of those things that I just didn't think about was like, let's just go and do it. Like,
Yeah.
and so I went to the waterfall, and after that I was like, maybe I shouldn't go by myself anymore. Like,
To bring someone else.
yeah,
with you
maybe I
along.
should be ready. Like I remember thinking like there's another waterfall from that main one, and I was like, there's no path. How do I know where to go? Like, do I just walk into, like, obviously I'm not used to this kind of thing, right?
Yeah, because
like,
in Singapore,
I'm a
everything is
city
all
person.
Nice pavement,
Exactly, like,
signage.
They tell you where the
toilet is
trail
over
is.
there.
Correct. There's a toilet. It's not like some dubious, like, maybe this is the toilet. Does the door lock? I don't know. Like, it's just like, oh, there's a waterfall further inside. And I was like, do I just go there? Like, what if I get lost? Like,
Yeah.
maybe don't. Maybe I just go back out. Like,
It's a
yeah.
city Singaporean thinking,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
Is it safe?
I don't think it's safe. So, yeah. After I took that photo, I was like, hey, Dan, just take the tripod, go back upstairs.
Yeah.
Take the car.
So you visited a few places, and these are.
yeah.
Is it seasonal? The birds?
Yes. Yeah. So these are yes. So these are okay. I don't remember exactly what kind of cranes they are, but they're from Siberia.
Oh,
So
okay.
every year they migrate and they stop in this town called Izumi before they go further south. So it happens yearly, and what's so interesting is that they don't actually have like a specific area that they stop to feed. They just end up on farms, like farmland. So the farmers there just kind of like, okay, let's harvest everything because the birds are gonna arrive soon. Anyways, it's sort of like at the end of winter, so they don't really have much to harvest, right? So they just don't clear the land. They just leave it as it is, let all the natural things grow, and then wait for the birds
Yeah,
to
because
come.
this bird eat and then poop.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's like fertilizer
so they get,
to the
yeah.
farmland.
Exactly. And like for me it was a kind of strange thing to see that it was a protected area, because like Japanese people in general aren't really well known for animal rights in
Yeah,
that sense.
in certain areas, yeah.
Like I remember one of the teachers telling me about their going on safari, and I was like, what is a safari? Like, I only know like Singapore night safari, or like the kind that's in Africa,
Yeah,
like South
correct,
Africa,
yeah.
that kind, right? And they said like you sit in this jeep that instead of like having glass windows, they have like, it's like a cage kind of thing, and inside your jeep is meat, raw meat, and you pick it up with like tongs and you kind of like stick them
them.
out, yeah, and the lions and tigers come right up to feed. And I was like, that's not, that can't be a thing. Like, that sounds like this shouldn't be a thing, right? And they're like, oh, it's normal. Like, this is what we do for fun. This is how we show our kids. And I was like, oh, okay. Then when I read about that, I was like, that's amazing. Like, that, you know, these two things can exist within the same space. And so when I found that, I was like, yeah, I don't care. I'll wake up at like 5 a.m. to drive to this to catch them at sunrise, because that's the best time to see them, right? Yeah, and I was like, that's amazing. I mean, I'm not a bird watcher, because everybody else there was like with the long tele lens
Did
and
you
everything.
appear in any news article?
No, I don't know. That I don't know, because
Okay.
I like, it was in the next prefecture, so if I did, like, nobody would have told me. I would just been like, my picture in the newspaper. Yeah.
Yeah, some nice sceneries, you know, it's like a lake,
Yeah, this is
river.
yeah, the river in the village, on one side of the village.
And these are the typical farm
Yeah.
in the area.
Yeah, basically this is the view from the school.
Do you miss the fresh air? It's like wake up in the morning. You stay in an apartment or a house?
I stayed in a house,
Okay.
so like a land, like I was gonna say landed. Yeah, I mean all of the houses are on the ground, right? So, I guess in a sense I do miss the fresh air. Like, you don't really notice the difference until you're away for a while, and then you come back and you're like, there's just something.
Not right.
Yeah, I feel like my nose is blocked, like congested, it's irritated, like, and then you're like, oh right, because I was surrounded by
By nature.
Yeah.
And because you come back to Singapore a few times, so when you are there, it's always quiet because not much cars, right?
yes,
Then when the first day you come back to Singapore, it's like you
The
came out of Changi Airport, it's like
gosh.
taxi,
Yeah.
cars, people, everything. Where are the animals?
The people. The first thing I noticed was that all the signs were in English, because I got so used to everything is in Japanese. All the announcements are in Japanese. I got so used to hearing it all around me. And then when I came back, I was like, oh yeah, right, like it's all in English.
Yeah.
Suddenly it was something I appreciated. Like I never noticed
And then
before.
once you get used to the sound, the environment here, you head back.
Yeah,
And then it's
suddenly
like, where are the people?
So quiet, so quiet. My house was right next to a forest, so literally my back door of the house led onto a
Wow.
forest, and so I don't even know how to describe how quiet it was. It was so quiet.
Were you like afraid for the first couple of days?
Scary.
I think at first it was like I couldn't really sleep because I was not used to how quiet it was. And then eventually it was like, yeah, it's okay, I guess. And then I started hearing gunshots in the distance because they are allowed to hunt the wild boar in that area.
To keep the numbers in check.
Because
Yeah.
basically the wild boar and the monkeys in that area, they will tear up crops and things like that.
Yeah.
So they have
I
to
think
do
monkey is one of the big issues.
Yes, yeah. They have to do it for their crops and stuff. So until I started hearing gunshots, and I was like, what are they shooting? And I think I remember one day I went to the
I worried,
office.
like,
Yeah,
what's
yeah, yeah. And
happening?
I'm like, am I going to suddenly be in some crossfire? And I just went to the office and I was like, why do they shoot near my house? And they're like, oh, because of the wild boar and the monkeys and the deer. And I was like, okay.
Hunting season.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Basically, yeah. So that I couldn't really get used to. But then it was the reverse when I came back. And like my bedroom window faces the car park, so like Singapore car park is like
Yeah.
all hours of the day there's a car, and the noise and everything. And I was like, no, it's too bright, it's too loud, it's too noisy. And I was like, God, this is the reverse, like the adjustment that needs to happen. Yeah.
So as part of the program, do they teach you Japanese on the site during your free time?
So the thing is, like as an ALT, you don't actually, like they tell you, you don't have to be able to speak Japanese when you come on the program.
Mm.
But they encourage you to learn so that you can, like, so that your life is easier.
Communicate.
Yeah,
better.
exactly.
Can
So
order some food when you go out.
yeah, especially the kanji part, like, so you know which ones to avoid, or like if you have allergies, how to say that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
correct. Yeah.
yeah, so they did have a program, but it was all like on the computer and it was self-paced, that kind of thing. So it was something that was created for all JET participants,
Oh,
not
okay.
just like in the area. So I remember when I first arrived, I was actually pretty keen on getting lessons like to study Japanese, but the only language school would have been in Kumamoto City, which, like, if I paid for the highway, it would have been an hour and a half one way.
Wow.
So I was like, is it worth it to drive 3 hours for an hour lesson? Right? Like, and then everybody was like, oh no, there are apps that you can use that, like, people Skype you and teach you online, that kind of thing. And I was like, no, I don't know if that's what I want.
Yeah,
like,
correct.
yeah. And then eventually I just got tired of like having to listen to Japanese all the time. So that affected my motivation to study Japanese as well. Because I was like, no, I hear it all the time. I see it everywhere. I don't like, when you get into culture shock, right, you're just like, I don't want to have anything to do with this anymore. I want, in my house, I want it to be English only, that kind of thing. So I didn't really study very much after the first couple of months, but I studied in other ways where I was like, where when I met people, I asked them, what's this in Japanese, or how do you say this in Japanese, that kind of thing. So
Do you butter trade with the students? It's like, I can teach you a little bit more English.
and you know, unfortunately, most of my students were not interested in English.
Oh.
Like in the sense that they saw it as like something that they just had to learn at school.
It's not compulsory, as in it's not a graded subject, but it's so more like a additional curriculum that they learn, right? Or is it something that must be graded?
There are no grades. As far as I could tell, there were no grades, like there were no exams. There were, like, even going from primary school to junior high school, there were no grades. It was like just yeah, okay, you're promoted. Like your primary 6 finished, okay, go to sec 1, that kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, so in that sense, the kids had no stress when it came to school. And I think for them, the major shift was that in elementary school, English is super fun. It's let's play games, you get stickers, I give you reward. Like English time is let's just have fun. But when they get to junior high school, it's like here is the English textbook. Now write the sentences. These are the grammar items that you have to learn.
More
And
dry lah.
yeah, and so even though I try to make it fun by having games for them to practice, you can tell that they're just like, oh, this is horrible. Like, why do I have to do this? Like, I'm not interested in speaking English to anybody. And you can actually see it in adults as well. Sometimes they're like, if this person only speaks English, what am I gonna do?
Yeah,
Like, I don't
right,
want to
it's always
speak
weird,
to them.
right?
Yeah, so unfortunately, they were not very interested in like.
So you
exchange.
go simple to for them. It's like when you teach them, it's like this is a pen.
Yeah, basically that is like junior high school lesson 1. It's the same thing
Yeah.
that like in the reverse, if you were doing a Japanese, like learning Japanese, they would teach you the same sentence like this is a
Korewa
pen.
pen.
Korewa
desu.
pen desu. Yeah,
That's what I
it's
always
the same.
remember. It's like a typical template. You know, the first sentence you learn, Korewa
Yeah.
pen desu. It's like, okay, this is a pen.
Yeah, so when they teach it in English, I'm like, okay, but nobody needs to know. I mean, I'm sure in Japan, in Japanese, nobody needs to know that this is a
Correct.
pen,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, you don't go to a store and say Korewa ringo desu. It's like apple. It's like I know it's apple. It's like you are more concerned about how much is this,
Exactly.
you know, and how
Yeah.
do I pay you, kind of thing.
Like real language use. So sometimes even the language that's in the textbook is very unnatural. So obviously they approach it from the American perspective because that's who the first like ALTs were. Mainly they were American, so they learn an American version of English. But even then, it's like I think sometimes they purposely try to translate from Japanese to English so that it won't be so difficult for their students. Yeah, to
Which
understand.
can't work because it's always the opposite.
Exactly. So it
Yeah.
ends up being very unnatural English. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, people don't say this though. And then like, it's okay, just teach the textbook. No? Okay, fine. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult to go against the system, right?
Exactly. And it's an entire system, and it's deeply entrenched. And I mean, they are planning to make changes to it, which is exciting. But at the
It takes
same
time.
time, yeah, it takes a very long time.
So, do you recommend people to go for such program?
To go on jet.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you are not
The basic
Yeah.
requirements.
yeah, if you meet the basic requirements. So with Japan, their policy for foreigners working in Japan and to get a visa to work, you have to have a university degree.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make the basic requirements that you have a 4-year degree and some other things that are listed on the JET program website. But basically, if you don't have family or financial commitments and you're interested to just be in a different environment and experience something, just do it. Like, I feel like
Go je.
just go. Yeah, just go. Just do it. Because as much as, like, even when I was in the research phase of whether I wanted to go on JET, right, it was still like, whatever experiences you hear, your experience is going to be different. And like the number one thing that you hear from other JET participants is they always tell you ESIT, which is every situation is different. Because it's true.
Yeah.
Anyways, in life, every situation is different, right? But they don't want to promote this single narrative of JET program for everyone. They want to say like, look, you may even go to the same place, but it's going to be different for you.
Yes.
Right? So
Yeah.
if you're up for it and you're somebody who can maybe also tahan a bit of like isolation, just go.
Because it's not easy, right? Living alone for a long time in a foreign country.
Yeah, especially when you get to the point where you feel like you feel not just homesick, but you start to get irritated by little things that other people do that I mean, and to be fair, it's like it's not something that they can change because that's their culture. That's just how they are. That's just how they work or how they interact with people. So like when you start to get irritated by them and the things that they do, you immediately just start to think like, I don't like being here, I don't want to be here, and that kind of thing. But when you really think about it, or especially from like me right now thinking back on it, like every situation that you go through in life, you experience that, where you start to get irritated, where you start being very excited and then it just dips into this like pit of
Different
negativity,
stage.
Yeah.
basically, right? Where you're like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I like this. Like, what am I gonna do here? Is it really worth it for me to be here? That kind of thing. So even though people do talk about it, in a sense, it's like you won't know until you're there how you will deal with it. Like, I've met people who, once culture shock hits them, they decide, I'm gonna leave, which, to be honest, everyone thinks about.
Yep.
Everyone says, like, you know what, like, it's easier for me to go home and just forget
Yeah,
about it,
correct.
like whatever,
Yeah.
right? But some people, they say, okay, you know what, maybe I'll just wait it out, see if it passes. And some people are like, nope, that's it, I'm leaving. And even if you leave, it's not, I mean, they try to dissuade you from leaving. Like, they'll say, like, don't, because it doesn't just mess up like your plans or like the plans for you to come here, but also there are a lot of other
Yeah, the picture is bigger,
Right,
right?
like
It's the
it's-
students.
yeah, it's more than just you, because then the students won't have somebody to help them, that kind of thing. But at the same time, I think, like, if you really cannot take it, it's up to you whether you want to stay or go. And some people have like this immense guilt of like whether I should stay or not, that kind of thing. But again, this is something that you would never know unless you're in that situation, what you're willing to put up with or what you're willing to go through. So I mean, like, if anybody would ask me, like, I'm considering Jet and should I go, I would say go, do it. Like, if you meet the requirements, if like you don't have commitments, go do it.
You only live once, right?
Yeah, I mean, you really only do. So like,
Try everything.
yeah,
that you can.
and either you're gonna come back with a story of like, it was awful and like this happened, or you're gonna come back and it was like, it was so weird, like there were good times, there were bad times, or you're gonna be one of those people who come back and you're like, it was amazing, like
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
about it was amazing, I want to move there, I want to live there, that kind of thing. So it really, it's up to you as the person, like as the person who goes there and experiences it, I think. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming today and share
Thanks
with
for
us
having
your
me.
experience in the JET program. I
Thanks
think,
for having me.
like what you say, you know, I strongly recommend people going
Yeah.
because it's experience.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
most of the things are being taken care of.
Yep.
You only need to take care of you be able to survive alone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because depending on the environment you are in, because sometimes you are alone in a
Yep.
very small village. You
It's
know,
true.
the food
Mhm.
we definitely miss because we have a lot of variety down here. You know,
Yeah.
so you go back and think, maybe I want to eat prata or something. Like that.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I think at one point my mother did bring me frozen prata.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Okay, because my parents visited me quite a lot, so I was able to say, "Can you help me bring this from Singapore?"
So
Can you
what
help
was
me?"
their feeling about that village?
Oh, they loved it. Like, they are the retirement age, like, kind of people. So to them, it's like this beautiful, quiet place where you just relax. And I think that's why they visited me so many times, because they were like, "This is our
Actually, it's an
retirement
excuse,
cottage."
right?
Yeah.
We are coming for you, but actually, I want to go and
No.
see the scenery.
Yes, yeah. And like, my mother, of course, enjoys going to the supermarket and seeing all the different kinds of fresh food and like things like that. So they enjoyed it, definitely.
So during that period, they cook for you.
Oh yeah, of course. I was really, really happy when my parents came, because even the bentos were my mother prepared. They just show up with suddenly an amazing bento.
Your
and I
colleague
was
must
like,
be looking at it.
my
"Eh,
mother
look
did it."
very different
Yeah.
these 2 weeks.
It's like, it's definitely not you. Are your parents here again? Yes, they are. Yeah.
All right. Thank you once again for joining us on
Thanks
this
for having me.
eXpose experience. We thank our and coffee for the coffee, always handful for the cake, and of course follow them on Instagram. We will share the link with you, and also follow us on eXpose,
Yeah.
both our Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah. Click the
Thank
link
you.
below.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and
Yeah.
see you in the next episode of eXpose Experience.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.